Okay, Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. I'm walking around Brussels. I'm going to go to another park. I'll name it in the title of the video. I'm not sure where it is, but I found a little green area. You know, behind me here is Parc Maximilian. We'd walked through that the other day, but I'm just now going up the street here towards the Brussels market. It's a Arabic shop, you know, and it's like that secret store in Lviv. Prices are much cheaper than an official supermarket, but they do take cards, so it's like a legit business, you know, so they must be getting their goods in a better way, cheaper way than other places. But yeah, the immigration process, where are we on that? So I got my sole proprietorship or freelance company set up, and I'm in the process now of getting the health insurance. I'm waiting for an invoice to come where I pay my social contribution. Normally that would be taken out of my taxes, I think, but I haven't started working yet here in Belgium. I start on Monday, and then it probably takes another month and a half to get paid. So you work a month and then you invoice them, and then they take a month to pay you. So I'll be paying out of pocket for a little while before I'm fully into the system. Yeah, it's a long process. That's all I can say. And it's I was talking to one of the people who dropped me comments the other day. He was from America and he's thinking about moving to Norway. But yeah, you'll find as I said, you'll find all this kind of administration things a lot easier in Norway. Here in Belgium, it's some sort of a torture device. You know, it's some sort of medieval torture device to run you through all this different steps and processes, and there's so much details and minutia involved. You know, yeah, it's I don't know. It's like every day it's something. I do a couple emails and you know, make a few phone calls every day. Now in Norway they do everything by email or text messages. Here these people like to call you and talk, you know. You know, it's like I prefer actually communicating in writing, so you have a paper trail and you can line by line do what they're asking, you know, but these people like to call and talk and talk and talk, and I'm not used to it anymore. Even in Ukraine, things were done online, or, you know, I guess I had my wife help me with stuff over there because I didn't speak Ukrainian. But yeah, that's another big difference here. I mean, I even just went to the post office today to send my friend Sergey some Belgian police patches. You know, I got some patches from the local police officer, and I gave him some Ukrainian army patches I got from Sergey. And they didn't know how to scan the barcode from the app. It's like there's a Belgian post office online department, and then there's the real post office, and they wanted me to handwrite the envelope. And then finally the manager came over and said, "Oh, no, you just scan this barcode and it will print the label, easy peasy." But that even took that was like a 10-minute ordeal. Yeah, it's not very modern here. Like I said, if Norway is the first place you go to in Europe, or Sweden or Denmark or even the Netherlands, it's the exception, not the rule. I think most of Europe is still like this, doing things with papers and handwriting, and it's different. It's all different. It's not so uniform. Not at all. But anyway, what are we going to talk about today? Yeah, the topic, should Zelenskyy resign, or my thoughts on Zelensky's resignation. And then also we'll talk about this whole Ukrainian propaganda machine and how it's actually putting Ukraine in danger. They're achieving exactly the opposite of what they want. You know, well, these are my thoughts on Zelensky's resignation. I mean, the last video I made, I was pretty pissed. You know, the way he handled himself at the White House, you know, and the way he put his own people in so much danger. You know, no consideration for the consequences of his action. He was thinking as himself, Zelenskyy, not as a representative of the Ukrainian people. And now I think Trump stopped the arms flow into Ukraine, but I think there's a 90-day backlog and some workarounds. So it's more headlines than real action. But still, he really put his country in danger. You know, and granted, he's done a lot, you know, give me bullets, not a right, all this kind of thing. And he's endured this, and he doesn't need to. He's independently wealthy. He could just step down and live in Switzerland. I mean, that is admirable. But we're in the 11th hour, and there was an administration change in America, and people have to cope with that. But now, the question is, you know, should Zelenskyy resign? No. On second thought, no. Because there really is no alternative to Zelenskyy. I mean, all the people in Poroshenko, Klitschko, these guys are not sophisticated at all to get anywhere near Washington, D.C. Now, they've been around Europe and stuff, but Europe is a different ballgame because, you know, Europe is just photo opportunities and getting memorandums written up and, you know, people making some, you know, speeches like this head of the EU, von der Leyen, or whatever her name is, the one with the 80s hair, you know, this blonde lady with the 1980s hairstyle. You know, they all make pretty words and stuff. And I mean, yeah, you can put these second-tier Ukrainian leaders there and, you know, have them, you know, pose for pictures and stuff. But when it comes to like negotiating, most of these people can't even speak English, you know. And I mean, Zelensky's the only one out of that crew, I think, that speaks proper English. And even his English is a bit rough, but I mean, he's understandable. He has a vocabulary. He understands what's being said to him. He can think in English. It's obvious, you know, because he responds and snaps back very quick. All this other stuff where all these other guys will have to depend on interpreters and stuff like that. You know, it doesn't fit the circumstances. So they got to fix what they have instead of getting something new. You know, I don't know, this is up to the Ukrainian people. You know, I mean, and this is where we get into the Ukrainian propaganda machine here. But I think they got to keep Zelenskyy, and they got to fix what they have. And there really is no point in having elections in Ukraine, I mean, as much as they should. I mean, you know, it's a wartime, it's a martial law. I actually kind of agree that it's not appropriate considering the amount of Russian infiltration in Ukraine. I mean, they're picking up like teenagers working for the Russians, so it would be very hard to have a clean election there. So, yeah, I mean, I gave this a lot of thought because I was pretty pissed at Zelenskyy. But now this, I guess let's back up before we talk about the Ukrainian propaganda machine. Like, what happened? Why did Zelenskyy behave like this in front of Trump? I mean, they had some agreements behind closed doors. This was just supposed to be a press conference, you know, just look good, you know, have a unified front, you know, look like united in front of Putin. And then, I don't know, he just started badgering Trump. Where did he get this from? Well, apparently he met with the Democrats before this meeting. And I'm pretty sure they told him, oh, don't worry about Trump. He's an idiot. He's not really the president. He's going to be out of there soon. We're going to impeach him, and we'll put Harris in there, you know, or we'll get J.D. Vance out. They probably filled his head with all this stuff, all this like garbage. And probably the Europeans did the same. You know, they just filled, let me just check and see that this is still working. Yeah, it's, you know, a lot of bloggers actually hold this in your hand and they don't even know that there's a clip. But, yeah, this is a more nice park. This has, I don't see anyone peeing or anybody smoking crack or weed or anything in this park. But, yeah, so what happened? So, yeah, they filled his ears. Probably like, you can go in there and if you don't like this deal, just tell Trump what you think and, you know, you can blow it up and we'll have your back. Well, so Zelenskyy did just that. You know, he I don't know, went off the rails around 40 minutes into this meeting, and that's when everything devolved and he got himself kicked out of the White House. You know, and we have to remember, Zelenskyy needs Trump. Trump doesn't need Zelenskyy for anything. I mean, if anything, Zelenskyy is just a nuisance for Trump. But, you know, Trump has a conscience. I really sincerely believe that. If Trump wanted to throw Ukraine under the bus, he wouldn't only have done it when he got inaugurated. You last month. He would have done it back in 2016 when he was telling NATO, to start spending more money on arms. He would have, let me go back this way. The sun is in my eyes, but yeah. He would have told NATO back in 2016, all the allies, hey, you guys are spending too much. Maybe you ought to spend less on the military and spend more on woke stuff. Spend more money on paint and paint all your rainbows on all your buildings, and disarm. We got you. That's what a pro-Putin president would have done. He wouldn't have gone into EU in 2016 or NATO and say, you guys are spending too little. And he wouldn't have threatened them that, hey, if you don't spend your money, we'll let Russia attack. He's trying to scare them. It's like tough love. Europe has been stubborn on its obligations. They want to spend all the money on gay stuff, on woke stuff. They want social programs and pensions, very generous pensions for people who have 25, 30-year careers doing very little, just, pushing papers. Finally, after all of Trump's rhetoric, Europe is actually talking about upping defense spending. It's actually hitting the stocks. The defense stocks are through the roof. European defense companies. And they're talking about like having a European defense fund, and they're talking about having a European army. They're talking about putting troops in Ukraine. But this is all from like Trump kicking them in the ass. If Trump was really on Russia's side, he would have told them to disarm. He would have said, your defense spending is fine. Maybe it's even too much, he would have said. So, anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent. But yeah, this is what, this is like the fact versus the propaganda. So the Europeans all set up, and the Democrats all set up Zelenskyy for a big fall. And why did they do this? They want Zelenskyy to fail. They want this deal to fail. They want this war to keep going so they can say that Trump was a failure. They would rather put their politics ahead of human life. The fact is this war is unwinnable unless the U.S. goes in there, and it would end up becoming a nuclear war. The Russians would start losing very fast and start lobbing nukes. The Chinese wouldn't be able to hold them back any longer. This is really just how political calculations are done, and I think Europe knows this. Everybody knows this. It's just not being said out loud. Otherwise, we would have gone in there a long time ago. Biden, who is very pro-Ukraine, would have gone in a long time ago, but he was always like holding back. So, yeah, the Europeans now, and then Zelenskyy, he goes to Europe, and cries up a river or whatever, and, feeling bad, and he gets to meet King Charles, and he meets all the European allies, and guess what they do? They send him back to Trump. They told him, you need to make good with Trump, and now Zelensky's on his way back to the White House, and he's ready to sign the minerals deal. And let's talk about this minerals deal. And this is more of this Ukrainian propaganda. They say, oh, the country's going to get raped by American companies. Everything I've read about these Ukrainian minerals, it's all on paper right now. There's no extraction going on, very little. It's all just some soil samples and some test results. But if you've ever worked in this business, I've followed gold and uranium and different metals. I've been an investor in all this, and I've read about mining. It's hard. You got to go and you take samples in the ground, and it might show something good because you just might have hit a good spot and gotten a good sample, or people, add to the sample. They sprinkle some gold dust in the sample or something so that they can get investment. They juice the samples, and then they look at these things, and people rig them a little bit, and then they invest all this money. It's not like building software. You got to bring Caterpillar machines out there. You got to dig holes. You got to blast stuff. You hit rocks. You hit trees. There's so many variables. It takes years. And I even saw, I'm going to post a video of one minerals expert saying it can even take decades to get these things working right. So this is all U.S. money has to pour in, and U.S. workers and U.S. experts have to pour in. And of course, these are large corporations are going to do this. And large corporations have the U.S. Defense Department behind them. We saw what happened in Kashm in 2018 when Wagner got too close to a U.S. oil field. They got smoked. It was just, I don't know. It was a massacre. They HIMARS'd them. They tested every possible weapon systems on them. And even the retreating Wagner soldiers were chased down and killed, not captured. And I mean, this was like Trump versus Russia. And I'm not like, in love with Trump or anything. I like the truth. Because with the truth, you can make proper decisions. See, Zelenskyy didn't get the truth. The Europeans filled his head with lies. The Democrats filled his head with lies. And he thought he could go in there and push Trump around when it was the other way around. And he just got beat down. Like this minerals deal, from what I understand, all these minerals are already in Canada being extracted. And it would be easier for us to do some deal with the Canadians. I mean, even though we're having this trade war stuff with them, we're still friends. It's just... it's like sibling rivalry. I mean, we're not going to build a wall with Canada and, totally isolate them. But all this stuff is already in Canada, and there's even a lot of places in the U.S. that have already been surveyed and ready to go. So this is, to me, like a big favor to Ukraine. As I think one of the guys said, it was to bind us, to have something to bind us. And I think Trump is actually even trying to get over on his own supporters, get some money into Ukraine, but not in a military way, but in a business way, so that there's some hope of a return. But it's a red herring for the U.S. It'll take a very long time to return money on this. I mean, first you make the investment. The investment has to get paid back, all this equipment and everything. And then there's running costs, so you're hiring local Ukrainians. There's going to be local Ukrainian subcontractors involved. So there's a whole lot of money that's going to be... poured in and jobs created, and some Ukrainians going to sell hamburgers to these workers, and other Ukrainians got to drive the truck full of meat to the hamburger joint. You get it. It's just it's like a whole supply chain has to be set up to just do some venture like this. I mean, personally, if I were Trump, I wouldn't do this deal. I would exploit the resources we have in Nevada. In Montana, they found a lot of stuff in Nevada, Montana, Utah. I would do this in America. Why the hell would we have to go to Ukraine and deal with all that crap? But anyway, this is like Trump's thing. And it's a way to bind the U.S. and Ukraine. So this was really a gift horse. And I don't know. Because he can't say security agreement or security guarantee out loud. Because then Putin leaves the negotiating table. And this is more of the Ukrainian propaganda. They want us to believe Russia's on its last leg and it's running out of gas and running out of energy and running out of men. And if we keep going like 1 or 2 more years, they're going to surrender and serve up Putin's head on a platter. That ain't happening. I mean, if you just look at the world, CIA World Factbook or National Geographic or any statistics source, there's 66 million men in Russia. So even if like a third of them were fighting age, let's say a third of them could go to the army. That's 20 million, right? And even if these Ukrainian numbers are right, let's say for the sake of argument, the ones that you see that aren't corroborated by CNN or the CIA or any other credible organization, just certified by the Ukrainians that they killed 800,000 Russians. Now I could believe 800,000 were killed and wounded combined, but let's say that's still like 20 years. And the Ukrainian population, I think, is somewhere now around 20 million. And a lot of the men are ducking the draft. So anyway, they're outnumbered. The Russians have close supply lines, and yes, they're getting hit. They're blowing up the refineries and all this stuff, but it's still not enough. It's just, it's a meat grinder. And that's what needs to stop. And the West is behind on ammunition production. And again, the Ukrainian propaganda doesn't talk about this, but CNN did. The Russians are producing ammunition 3-to-1 against all Western nations, including America. They have devoted their whole $2 trillion economy to war. And these are like the facts and realities that Pete Hegseth and Trump want us to deal with, not these fantasies that the Ukrainian propagandists want us to deal with. See, these fantasies that they're, purporting and, broadcasting or whatever, or propagating and getting people killed, it's making bad decisions, like I had this Belgian police officer, me and him, the one I exchanged the patches with, he was like laughing about the North Koreans, right? Oh, they're bad soldiers and have old weapons. But my friend Sergey, who actually fought in Kursk, told me, yeah, but when they're pointing a gun at you, even if it's 100 years old, that bullet can still kill you. And you still have to go in there and deal with them. It's still a problem, whether it's a Russian Spetsnaz commando or some, 18-year-old dysfunctional Korean kid, North Korean kid. It's still dangerous. You can't discount that. So I have my own sources. I have friends. I mean, they're not even sources. They're my friends. They're people I've known long before the war, and now they're in it. And they quietly tell me they watched those videos that this was Zelensky's fault. He was the one that needed something, not Trump. He had to go in there with a different approach. He had to control his behavior a little bit better because he needs to come out with something for his people. And he has to swallow some pride and play the game a little bit. But if he goes in there and does what he did, now this U.S. support is on the line, and Europe is not willing to step up. They always push it back to America. And this Ukrainian propaganda now is on full speed, saying that, oh, Europe will step in and support him. Europe just told Zelensky, go back to America, because they're not up to it. They're trying to switch from painting street crosswalks and everything rainbow colors to war mode. They have to close down all these departments that are, that paint rainbows everywhere and switch to bullets, to put that money into bullets. The whole culture is just all wrong here. They're really extremely screwed up. But anyway, yeah, this propaganda machine in Ukraine, it's really, like I said, it's dangerous. It's dangerous for Ukraine. It's not doing anything to help them. Making Ukrainian fake news to make Ukrainians feel better. Ukrainians need to know exactly where they're at and know exactly what the potential outcomes are and what's needed to get those outcomes and which outcome is the least worst outcome. Because there is no getting the land back. No amount of, it would have been done by now. It would have happened by now. But anyway, that's all I got. And we'll talk later.